How you doing, guys? Welcome back to the Poise Showcase series, and today I'm going to be taking another look at the greatest club. Now, I've used two builds for this particular video, or in the actual fights in this video, so instead of actually going over the builds here in the beginning, I've saved some time, and I've actually created a link to both those builds on Mugen Monkey below. So have a look at the two builds on Mugen Monkey, and it will save us some time here discussing these builds at the beginning of the video. They're pretty straightforward, so I don't think you'll have any issues, finding out how to use the greatest club in action. So instead, we're going to go straight into the arena here, guys. Let's test out this big boy. Alright guys, first match of the day here, and we are going up against a traditional sword and board meta warrior over here. You just have to be very careful because, as always, when you are using big weapons, guys, fighting reactive straight sword users is incredibly difficult. Now, you'll notice my opponent here has a Black Knight shield, so it's good that we have a dark infused great club and also a dark infused longsword in the offhand, so we can pressure that setup a little bit more effectively. As you'll notice though, it's pretty hard to open with the Great Club, I mean with any Great Hammer, because they're so much slower than other Hyper Armor class weapons. So they're a lot slower than even Ultra Great Swords. But you know, they're still quite good in the sense that you do have some reliable baits, at least with the Great Club, as you saw just then. The R2 into the R1 is absolutely great. And the R2 itself has an astonishing amount of range, a lot of phantom range as well, so it can also be used in a free aim capacity. So if you free aim that R2, it's especially good at handling groups in invasions, for example, and it's excellent at baiting your opponent into a regular R1 as well. Good game. Next match in the arena, we've got a parrying shield and a straight sword over there. And just to quickly discuss some true combos with the Great Club, just like other Great Hammers, if you hit confirm that two-handed R1, it can combo into a jumping attack, so keep that in mind. And also the two-handed R2, when you hit confirm that into an R1, that is also a true combo, so keep those in mind if you want to bait out those trades there, guys, for some big damage. Now let's see if we can roll catch this guy with an R2, just so I can show off its range here, guys. Come on. I want to catch you with my R2, mate. Gotcha! Good game, man. Good game. Next up in the arena, we've got a gentleman here with a Black Knight shield and a Millwood battle axe, which is pretty awesome. You don't see the Millwood axe that often anymore. Now, what I will say is, the trick with the Great Club or any Great Hammer here, guys, is knowing that you're going to obviously struggle against any meta setup because you're obviously too slow, and those particular builds can just reaction roll everything you have. But one thing you really need to get used to in order to get a little bit more effective with this particular class, in my opinion, is getting used to your Hyper Armor activation timing. Remembering that Great Hammers are the slowest out of all Hyper Armor weapons, so they're going to be slower going into their Hyper Armor than Ultra Great Swords and Great Axes, and much slower than medium Hyper Armor weapons like Great Swords and regular hammers. So it's about practicing your Hyper Armor activation timings in order to bait your opponents into your trades more effectively. Straight on to the next match. And it looks like we have a Pontiff Knight curved sword over there. So a curved sword class, one of the meta weapons that any Hyper Armor weapon is going to really struggle against, especially something like a Great Hammer because they're so slow. So when you do fight curved swords, guys, my best advice here when using a Great Hammer is to be very careful about your whiffs. So like I mentioned with Ultra weapons, you do not want to be swinging more than once unless you're hit confirming, otherwise it's a very easy whiff punish for your opponent. As you can see here, I'm only swinging once and trying to get a good gauge on him. Caught him there with the R2, but you don't want to be swinging more than once at all against these super quick weapons, otherwise you're just going to invite them to whiff punish you quite heavily, guys. So in these instances, I do think it's probably more beneficial to play a more passive game and get a good read on your opponent's tempo. Switch up here to the longsword. Next match. So it looks like we have a Murakuma over there. But looks like our opponent isn't very well poise optimized, so I think we're going to be able to poise break him here, unless he goes in with another weapon art like he did just then. Oof. Good game. Next match in the arena, and looks like we have another Pontric Knight Curve Sword over here. So just like before guys, it's about getting a good read on your opponent's tempo and playing a little bit more passively than usual, or only swinging once and making sure you hit confirm before you go for those second swings. Now going back to that previous match where I finished up with a longsword, I do think it's a very good idea, like with any big weapon, I do this with all my big weapon showcases, is having good offhand support or some utility. So you're always going to want to be carrying a, you know, an offhand straight sword and also a crossbow as well with exploding bolts, because these big weapons are just way too slow, and especially if you're trying to finish someone off, you really need some support weapons to do that for you. Otherwise you're going to be chasing with this big weapon. It's not really going to work out guys, and your opponent is going to capitalize on the fact that you're being aggressive and careless, and it's pretty easy for them to actually come back guys. So you really want some offhand support with these big weapons to you know, finish those matches where your opponent is taking a more passive stance. Like for example my opponent here, he obviously knows he is close to death, so we caught him there with a free aimed exploding bolt, and now let's see if we can finish him off here as well. So yeah guys, big weapons means a lot of bad matchups, so make sure you have that offhand support to help you out. Alright guys, the next match, and as you can see here I'm now fighting at the old Wolf of Farron. Basically this is the space for some more competitive duels against the more competitive players. And this isn't a ladder match or anything like that, it was just myself and my opponent here. We just wanted to test out some setups in this competitive space. So I thought I'd try out the Great Club in this more confined area against his straight sword and RBS. Good bait there into the double R1. As you'll see there guys, I love switching up to these to offhand support. I absolutely love it. Mainly because with these big weapons your mix-up potential is pretty limited. So like I mentioned in the previous video, in the previous match I should say, having some offhand support can really help you increase your mix-up potential. You know, if you throw out some straight sword attacks in combination with your great hammer, just to bait your opponent into you, or like you see here, it's just confusing my opponent a little bit with that straight sword, as the great club is fairly slow and easy to avoid, and an easy backstab, as you can see there. So that's a good example of never swinging more than once, otherwise you're just inviting your opponent to do something like that to you. Good game. Straight on to the next match. And what do we have here? We've got a, is that the war banner? I forget what the actual name of that weapon is. I don't really see it that often, but it does have that buff. Trying to bait our opponent there, he's not having any of it. Now he's also got a, looks like a parrying dagger or something like that in the left hand. Good thing the two-handed attacks on these ultra weapons can't be parried. It's only the two-handed running attack and rolling attack that can be parried, so keep that in mind. But other than that, the rest of your standard two-handed moveset is unparryable, and this goes the same with other ultra weapons guys. And obviously the one-handed moveset is parryable, so you want to be two-handing against those parry kings. I said that as I went for some one-handed swings. Next match, looks like we have a Artorias cosplayer here. Let's bait him into our big hammer, shall we? Game. Alright guys, so let's go for one last match here today, and it looks like we're coming up against some buffed twin axes, which is pretty cool. You don't see the twin axes very often. Nice R1s there, just capitalizing on our reach. Good game. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this particular video taking a look at the greatest club in action. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. If you're enjoying my content, please subscribe. And as always guys, thank you for watching. Until next time.